IMF has come out with a report which looks at the impact generative artificial intelligence has on workplaces, the nature of employment, and the future of work. Do you want to talk us through what this means for India's young working age population and how this could change working in the way that we know it?
Yeah. So Rahul, let me start with the global impact that we expect in terms of jobs from generative AI. Our estimate is that about 40% of jobs globally are vulnerable to
40%.
40%. Now, vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because some of those jobs you're exposed to AI, but in a positive way, which means it increases your productivity. But then you could have the other kind of exposure where it actually, you get displaced. So if we do that breakdown, then it's about half and half. Now, there's a lot of variation. So if you look at the US, we have about a 60% exposure. About 30% of that was complementing the worker, and 30% is not complementing the worker. If you look at India, because there's a very large number of workers who are in the agricultural sector, the exposure is lower at around 30%. So in a sense, India doesn't have the negative effect, widespread effect on the labor market, the potential negative effect on the labor market, but it also is then missing out on the positive effect of AI. So that's kind of the broad scope that we have.
But usually when it came to, say, robotics or automation, the impact was on workers who were not very high up the skill pyramid. Now we're seeing a lot of what was previously considered very high-end work. I was at a session on Gen AI in the morning at the Web Center, and a lot of, say, coding now can simply be done through generative artificial intelligence. You've got a young son. How do people who about to hit the working age population really deal with these changes and prepare to have a meaningful career and a meaningful life going forward?
It's certainly the case that this is now replacing, cognitive skills, which is a more ritual kind of more, automatic kind of cognitive work. It is affecting the top end of the spectrum too. Actually, it may be benefiting the less experienced workers, because the less experienced workers are able to use Gen AI to kind of build up experience very quickly because of the technology being able to aggregate whatever learning there is that you get from experience. So it benefits you if you have less experience. If you're kind of middling in the management scale, then it has somewhat of a negative effect on you. At the very end, of course, the very, very best are going to benefit from this technology. It complements them the most. But right below that, you might start seeing a negative effect. Now, what we also notice is that those at the very end in terms of skill, labor income skill, and high incomes also tend to get capital income. And here's where the source of inequality can be the biggest, because we might see a lot more concentration of wealth. At least we're already seeing it in terms of where all the AI is getting developed and produced. It's in a number of companies, and in a couple of countries. It's basically the US and in China. That's where most of the development is happening.